At 17:31 hours on November 4th, 1944, Squadron Leader Brance Burbridge settled into the cockpit of his de Havilland Mosquito night fighter at RAF Swanington. Across the dark expanse of occupied Europe, German radar emissions flickered across his navigator's screen. At just 23 years old, and once a conscientious objector, Burbridge had already flown 47 combat sorties in the past 8 months. The toll on Bomber Command had been staggering. 217 heavy bombers lost to German night fighters in October alone. Beside him, Flight Lieutenant Bill Skelton took his place in the navigator's seat, adjusting the Serrate detector, a repurposed AI Mecha 4 radar system capable of homing in on transmissions from German Liechtenstein sets at distances up to 80 miles. But that evening, the scope displayed an unusual concentration. Multiple contacts, more than Skelton had observed in weeks. The problem had intensified since September. German night fighters had learned to infiltrate RAF bomber streams undetected, slipping beneath formations of Lancasters and Halifaxes to unleash devastating upward-firing cannons, nicknamed Schräge Musik. The bomber crews rarely saw their attackers. Death came from below, silent and sudden. During the brutal Battle of Berlin, 574 RAF aircraft were lost, most to these elusive hunters. The ground crews at Swanington knew the grim statistics all too well. Each night they watched the slender, wooden-framed mosquitoes roar into the sky, unsure who would return. Formed expressly to counter this threat, No. 100 Group fielded 7 mosquito squadrons equipped with cutting-edge electronic detection gear. Their mission was clear: become the hunters of the hunters. By tracking enemy radar emissions, they would locate and eliminate German night fighters before they could reach the bomber streams. Since December 1943, the group had claimed 257 enemy aircraft, but at the cost of 70 mosquitoes. Burbridge engaged the Merlin engines, feeling the airframe vibrate as power surged through the twin engines. He had joined 85 Squadron in July 1943 after a year as a flying instructor. His first combat tour yielded modest results, only 1 probable kill and a damaged enemy aircraft. But everything changed when he was paired with Skelton. The navigator's mastery of the Serrate system gave them a decisive edge. Their first confirmed victory came in February, a Ju-88 over the Channel. By April, Burbridge had 5 kills. By October, his tally stood at 14. That night, they were assigned a high-level intruder patrol southeast of Cologne. Intelligence briefings had been explicit. Bomber Command was targeting Bochum, and German night fighters would scramble from airfields across the Rhineland, Bonn, Gütersloh, Cologne, and others. Mosquito patrols would be waiting to intercept them before they could organize. As the Mosquito lifted off precisely at 17:31, it traced a low path across the English coast at 1,800 feet, descending further to evade coastal radar before climbing to 15,000 feet over Belgium. Skelton monitored his instruments. The AI Mark X provided forward-looking radar coverage up to 8 miles, while Serrate scanned for hostile emissions ahead. Somewhere in the black void over Germany, experienced Luftwaffe crews, some with dozens of kills, were taking to the skies. They held advantages in altitude, numbers, and experience. But tonight, for the first time, they were the prey. By 1904, deep in enemy airspace, Serrate registered a contact 4 miles out, moving from starboard to port. Burbridge swung the Mosquito into pursuit. The Serrate system functioned by detecting Liechtenstein radar transmissions, frequencies between 490 and 600 megahertz, which German night fighters broadcast while searching for bombers. Though it provided bearing without precise range, Skelton estimated distance by signal strength, calling out fine course corrections. Left 2 degrees, steady, contact strengthening. At 1,500 feet, Burbridge spotted a dark silhouette against the night, confirmed through binoculars as a Ju-88. The twin-engine German fighter carried a crew of 3 and bristled with firepower: 4 20mm cannons, 3 machine guns, and, in some models, upward-firing Schräge Musik cannons. Oblivious to the Mosquito on its tail, its radar scanning only ahead, the Ju-88 continued its westward hunt. The Luftwaffe had known about Serrate since mid-1943, but had little choice. Without radar, they were blind in the bomber-saturated skies. Burbridge closed to 1,000 feet, then 800, carefully arming the 4 Hispano cannons in the Mosquito's belly, 175 rounds per gun. Doctrine emphasized precision, short, controlled bursts to avoid revealing their position. At 400 feet, the Ju-88's exhausts glowed faintly red. Dark crosses marked its fuselage. True to his consistent philosophy, honed since his first victory, Burbridge aimed for the port engine, not the cockpit. He and Skelton, both devout Christians, had often discussed the morality of combat. Their goal was to disable the machine, not necessarily its crew. Just as he prepared to fire, Skelton's voice crackled over the intercom. "New contact, 2 miles left to right, closing fast." The empty night had suddenly grown crowded. Burbridge made a split-second decision. Finish the first target. He triggered a precise 3-second burst. Tracers streaked through the darkness, tearing into the Ju-88's port engine. Flames erupted instantly. The German aircraft banked violently right and plunged away. Burbridge pulled up to avoid debris. At 19:06, Skelton logged the kill. The Ju-88 vanished from view at 3,000 feet, trailing fire. German records would later confirm the loss of a Ju-88G from Nachtjagdgeschwader 1 near the patrol zone, with 2 crew killed and the pilot surviving. But there was no time to celebrate. The second contact was now a mile away. Burbridge turned northwest, hunting the new signal. The Serrate return was weak and intermittent, suggesting the German pilot was using radar sparingly, a sign of growing tactical awareness. The Luftwaffe had adapted. Some crews now operated silent until the final moments of an intercept. At 1914, Skelton reacquired the contact, 800 yards dead ahead, same altitude. Burbridge nudged the throttles forward. The Mosquito surged to 280 knots, closing rapidly. Visual confirmation revealed another Ju-88, this one equipped with the newer, longer SN-2 radar array. It flew straight and level, unaware of its pursuer. Burbridge maneuvered into position 600 feet behind and slightly below. Skelton reported no additional threats. They were clear, yet instinct warned them something was amiss. The Ju-88 was heading directly toward Bonn Hangelar Airfield, a major night fighter base south of Cologne, home to 2/N, JG-1, and over 40 aircraft. If they followed it too close, they risked flying into a hornet's nest. At 400 feet, Burbridge shifted his aim to the starboard engine. Variation was essential to avoid predictability. Another 3-second burst. 200 rounds struck home, igniting fuel and tearing through the wing root. The entire starboard wing exploded into flame. The Ju-88, pitched downward, rolled violently and disintegrated in midair before crashing in farmland east of their position. No survivors. In just 11 minutes, 2 enemy night fighters were gone. Burbridge had expended roughly 150 rounds. 550 remained. Then Skelton's voice returned, urgent. "Multiple contacts, 3 to 5 miles out, converging on Bonn Hangelar." The Germans were massing for the bomber stream intercept, and Burbridge was flying straight toward them. By 1923, they reached the airspace southeast of Cologne. Below, scattered lights marked the airfield. Skelton counted 6 radar signatures orbiting in a tight pattern, a standard Luftwaffe tactic. Night fighters circled a fixed point at 500-foot vertical intervals, awaiting vectoring from ground control. Burbridge made a decision few would dare. He joined the orbit. The Mosquito slipped seamlessly between 2 Ju-88s, 1,500 feet ahead and 1,800 behind. In total darkness, with no visual references, the Germans had no way to distinguish friend from foe. Their radars scanned outward for bombers, not inward for threats. For 90 seconds, the Mosquito flew in formation with its enemies. Skelton watched as more aircraft joined the stack. 7, then 8. The Luftwaffe was assembling its full strike force. Soon they would peel off to attack the approaching RAF bombers, unless someone stopped them. Burbridge selected the aircraft ahead. Matching orbital speed at 230 knots, he gently increased power to close the gap. At 1928, he visually identified a Messerschmitt Bf-110, bulkier and more heavily armed than the Ju-88, with 4 forward cannons, Schräge Musik, and a rear gunner, a veteran's aircraft. He closed to 500 feet, then 400. Through the gun sight, he saw the twin tail booms, the glazed radar operator's nose, the glowing exhausts. He targeted the port engine and fired. The burst struck true. The engine detonated, engulfing the wing in fire. The Bf-110 tumbled out of formation and crashed at 1930. German logs later confirmed the loss of a Bf-110 from 2/N JG-1 near Bonn Hangelar, pilot killed, 2 crew bailed out. But the ruse was over. Skelton's screen showed the orbit dissolving, aircraft scattering, ground controllers broadcasting frantic warnings. "Intruder in the area. All fighters take evasive action." The element of surprise had vanished, and they remained deep in hostile territory. Then one contact turned toward them. Skelton called it out. 1,200 yards, bearing 090, closing fast. The German pilot had likely seen the explosion, and the Mosquito's silhouette against the flames. At night, that range was perilously close. Burbridge banked hard into the threat, 60 degrees, defying expectations. Night combat was geometry. Angles, closure rates, energy. Control the merge, control the fight. At 800 yards, Skelton confirmed the target. A Ju-88, possibly a newer G variant, more advanced and harder to catch off guard. Both aircraft converged at over 400 knots combined speed. Head-on or break-off. A head-on pass meant mutual exposure, but disengaging would concede initiative. Burbridge held course. At 400 yards, the Ju-88 opened fire. Tracers whizzed past the Mosquito's port wing. Burbridge waited. At 200 yards, the enemy filled his sight. He unleashed a full 5-second burst, every remaining round from all 4 cannons. The Ju-88 shuddered under the impact. The cockpit shattered, both engines ignited, and the aircraft pitched up, rolled inverted, and plunged to Earth, exploding on impact at 1940. German records later listed a Ju-88G from 9/NJG, one lost near the Rhine. All crew killed. In 37 minutes, 4 German night fighters had been destroyed. Burbridge had fired approximately 400 rounds total. Only 300 remained, scattered across magazines, insufficient for prolonged combat. Skelton reported clear scopes. The remaining Germans had scattered or landed. The immediate danger had passed, but fuel was now a concern. They'd been airborne over 2 hours. The Mosquito's 4-hour endurance required prudent reserve management over enemy territory. Burbridge turned northwest for home. Behind them, 4 wrecks burned on German soil, 4 crews who would never threaten another bomber. The grim arithmetic of war was inescapable. Eliminate the threat, save the bombers. As they crossed Belgium, Skelton began drafting the combat report. Times, locations, aircraft types, ammunition used. It was 1952. Swanington awaited by 2100 if weather held. But then, weak, intermittent returns on the Serrate scope. 2 miles back, growing stronger. Was it a friendly escort or a vengeful pursuer? Assumptions could be fatal. Burbridge dropped to 12,000 feet and plunged into a cloud layer, vanishing into featureless gray. If the contact relied on radar, clouds offered no cover. But if it was visual, they might have broken contact. After 3 minutes, the signal faded. Climbing back to 13,000 feet, they emerged under a starlit sky. The Dutch coast lay 40 miles ahead. At 2008, they crossed the enemy shoreline. Flak from Amersfoort burst harmlessly below. They were too high, too fast. Over the North Sea, friendly skies beckoned. Skelton ran a systems check. Fuel at 200 gallons, engines and hydraulics normal, no damage sustained. The Mosquito had delivered perfection. 4 kills, 0 hits. Its wooden construction, light, fast, agile, had proven its worth. Burbridge's hands remained steady, but his mind weighed the night's reality. Most crews earned a single victory in a tour, some none. They had destroyed 4 in one sortie. Yet he also thought of the cost. 4 German pilots dead, families awaiting telegrams. He had aimed for engines when possible, but the final engagement had allowed no such restraint. War offered no clean choices, only the mission. Stop the killing machine, protect the bomber crews. At 2021, the English coast appeared. RAF Swanington lay 15 miles inland. Skelton radioed their return. Mosquito inbound, 4 victories claimed. The tower cleared them for immediate landing on runway 27. At 2032, the aircraft touched down smoothly, taxied to dispersal, and shut down. Ground crews, who always counted aircraft out and back, swarmed. Word of 4 kills in one night spread instantly. No one had done that before. Debriefing began immediately. Preliminary claims logged. 3 Ju-88s, 1 Bf-110. Intelligence would verify details later, but that night's success was undeniable. Unbeknownst to them, this mission would reshape tactics across No. 100 Group. Within days, Air Chief Marshal Arthur Harris personally reviewed the report. The efficiency was extraordinary, 200 rounds per kill, and the tactic revolutionary. Serrate-equipped Mosquitoes could now penetrate German airspace, disrupt night fighter operations at their source. Training protocols were overhauled. Burbridge and Skelton were summoned to brief other crews on orbital infiltration, engagement timing, and ammunition discipline. The tactic became standard doctrine. By November's end, results were evident. Bomber losses dropped from 217 to 152. German night fighter effectiveness fell by 28%. No. 100 Group claimed 63 kills that month, 7 by Burbridge and Skelton, whose tally reached 17. The Luftwaffe responded with new orders: minimize radar use. But that left crews blind, caught in a tactical paradox. The Serrate system had forced an impossible choice. By December, German pilots spoke of mosquito Schreck, mosquito terror, especially during vulnerable landing approaches, when slow, gear-down aircraft were easy prey for circling intruders. Burbridge and Skelton continued their campaign. By year's end, they had 20 victories, surpassing the famed Cat's Eyes Cunningham. On January 2, 1945, during their final mission southwest of Ludwigshafen, they downed a 21st Ju-88, becoming the highest-scoring British and Commonwealth night fighter team of the war. Air Vice Marshal Addison awarded both the Distinguished Service Order with bar. Yet their true legacy lay not in medals, but in lives saved. Each German night fighter averaged 6 bomber kills annually. 21 destroyed meant roughly 126 bomber crews, 1,260 RAF airmen, returned home because of them. In March 1945, Burbridge left 85 Squadron to command the Night Fighter Leaders School. The war in Europe had 2 months left, but his combat role was complete. After victory, both men left the RAF and pursued theology, Burbridge at Oxford, Skelton at Cambridge. They dedicated their lives to ministry, reconciliation, and youth work, rarely speaking of the war. When asked, Burbridge would simply say, "I aimed for engines, not cockpits. I wanted to stop the machine, not kill the men." No. 100 Group disbanded in December 1945. But its electronic warfare innovations became foundational to post-war air doctrine worldwide. The Mosquito, born as an unarmed fast bomber, proved one of the war's most versatile aircraft, excelling as fighter, bomber, intruder, and reconnaissance platform, its wooden airframe outpacing metal rivals. Burbridge and Skelton remained close friends until Skelton's death in 2003. They seldom spoke of November 4, 1944. That night belonged to history, to the RAF, and to the 1,260 bomber crewmen who came home because 21 German hunters never did. Brands Burbridge passed away on November 1, 2016, at age 95. His medals were eventually sold to cover care costs. His family's need outweighed national memory. But his record endures: 21 victories, the highest-scoring British night fighter ace, the invisible hunter, whose success the Germans could not deny as wreckage burned across their skies. Stories like theirs remind us that innovation wins wars, not just through technology, but through courage, discipline, and the relentless pursuit of a single idea: protect those who cannot protect themselves. Every enemy fighter they destroyed meant more bomber crews who saw dawn again.